How are you? I am Nikita.
And I will.
And this is the Say How You Feel podcast. And on the Say How You Feel podcast, we assist budding entrepreneurs get clear about what they need to do to be successful on their journey. And today is no different. Today, we are going to be interviewing the beautiful LaQuinda Johnson. So, before we get into the interview, of course, we got to take a little quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Just You Soap Company's mission is to provide enriching handmade natural products with love, creativity, imagination, and originality. They have a skincare brand that will provide nourishment and moisturization. Ditch the commercial brands. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your time, money, and health on mediocre products. No one should. Visit them at justyoursoapcompany.com. And we're back. So let me tell you about LaQuinda. From teaching to educational leadership and beyond, international education consultant, homeschooling mom, I'm going to ask her about that, and author, LaQuinda Johnson is revolutionizing the way we learn in private, public, charter, and homeschooling environments by shaping the leaders who manage them. The Clark Atlanta University graduate has dedicated 14 years in the classroom, forming scholars in education amongst the Miami-Dade and Atlanta communities, and has also served as a mentor, teacher leader, department chair, reading specialist, and Gears ambassador. LaQuinda is passionate about her career, with the success of future generations at the core of her concerns. She loves nothing more than to contribute to the improvement of education and its leaders. So without further ado, I introduce to you the beautiful LaQuinda Johnson. Hello.
Hello. Thank you
How are
for
you doing
having me
today?
today.
Thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Doing good. Totally awesome. So we're going to jump right in. We're not going to hold back. So the first question I have for you today is, what made you want to become an educator?
That's not a difficult question at all. I have always been passionate about education, educating our future. So from the tender age of 5 years old, I would have my dolls and my
Uh-huh.
little imaginary board, and I would
Uh-huh.
be teaching. And ultimately, I said, "Hey, this is what I want to do." My teacher, Miss Thomas, she was an inspiration, and I knew I was on the correct path as far as education. I was like, I want to be like you. You're my role model.
That is so cool. You know, when you said, I knew where you were going when you said you were 5. Because I did the same thing. The dolls were my students. I remember one time I used to play school all the time. I did. I had worksheets and everything. Graded them. They used to get in trouble now. But one time I was playing and my aunt had come to visit us and she pretended like she was the principal. Like it was serious. I was really into it. And that was not something I went into though. But I think teachers are so very important because they really do, our children are with teachers for most of the day. They're like with them for like 7 hours a day,
Yes.
and then by the time they get home, either you're not there yet because you're at work, or when you finally come home, all you can really have time for is dinner and bed. That's it.
Yes,
And then the
that's it.
cycle starts over again. Educators are so important. I appreciate and I thank you for having the wherewithal to, go into that field and not just go into the field, but you've expanded on that, like
Yes.
largely. One of the things I wanted to ask you
Mhm.
is, how did you transition from the classroom to homeschooling?
So transferring from the classroom to homeschooling. Like I said, I envisioned for myself, I saw myself being in the classroom 30 plus years,
Mhm.
because that's all I saw. That's what I went to school for. That's it. But unfortunately, I had an accident. And
Okay.
with that accident, I was on bed rest. And when I was on bed rest, I ultimately had a decision to make as far as, the next steps for me.
Mhm.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to venture in this lane, which is still a part of education.
Mhm.
But that was the first initial step. Then, as far as for my business, and then as far as homeschooling, that journey came about like the year after I started my business, to be honest.
Okay. Okay.
My daughter was in a magnet school, and ultimately, or theme school, excuse me. And ultimately, I saw some things that I wasn't comfortable with as far as
Mhm.
being an educator. For instance, with my daughter, we were working with her at home. So of
Mhm.
course, when she got to school, there were some things that she was already advanced or equipped, because
Mhm.
that's the purpose. At home, you're supposed to
Right.
take care of what you need to at home, and then when she goes to school, she's supposed to continue that journey. So with that in mind, it was right before the pandemic, in which I was just dissatisfied with what I was seeing within the classroom as far as my daughter working with other students, being like the teacher, because she was at an advanced pace, excuse me. So as a
Mhm.
result, I did express to the teacher that, hey, you need to challenge her, because that was my initial conversation with her, saying, make sure you challenge my daughter, because I know that she's going to finish off assignments and she's going to want to help. And I said, she's not to be, the teacher assistant every single day. And ultimately that is what was happening. I gave it some time,
Okay.
and I voiced my concerns, and it still went on deaf ears. So
Mm.
ultimately, I withdrew her from school. And I said, baby, we're on a journey now. Because I said, I did not expect for that to actually happen. There have been conversations before as far as, homeschooling, but um, it was never something that like I said, planned on doing. It was just something
Mhm.
that happened, and it was the best decision ultimately that I feel like we made as parents.
That is very interesting. So, that is very interesting. Is admirable, and I'm glad that you were able to do that, because there's a lot of people that, because you're an educator and there's
Mhm.
not a lot of people that uh, are able to do that. They
Mhm.
probably feel inadequate to be able to do, but they know there's an issue there. Um,
Yes.
so we have several grandchildren, but we have a 3-year-old grandson. Uh, Now he's been diagnosed with autism, but you wouldn't
Mhm.
know it to meet him.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily agree with the diagnosis, but that's something for another time. Uh,
Okay.
but he can read, like he can read.
Mhm.
We were watching Jeopardy. One of my daughters loves Jeopardy. I'm going somewhere with
Mhm.
it, but she loves Jeopardy, and she'll come over and we'll play.
Mhm.
And so Kira Sedgwick was one of the guests on the show. Now we didn't say
Yes.
her name, but we said we were telling our daughters that she's married to Kevin Bacon, right?
Mhm.
So the host was saying hello to everyone. So he said, "Hi, Kira Sedgwick." Now, mind you, you heard her name. So you
Yes.
have to know phonetically how to sound it out and say
Yes.
it. And we're sitting there like, what the world? So he can read. He knows
Read,
his
read.
ABCs. Yeah, read. Knows his
Mhm.
ABCs, knows, how to count 1 to 100. He can do a little adding, all the things. I
Mhm.
don't want to send him to public school. Just don't want to do it. I don't want to send him to public school. Don't want
Yes.
to send him to the little classical schools and all the things,
Mhm.
because I don't want them, what you just said about your daughter, I don't
Mhm.
want that to happen to him. And I
Yes.
don't want them to become, like you said, the teacher's assistant, because that's what they do. I don't
Mhm.
want that. I don't want him to get bored and then they, either put him in a category because he's supposed to be autistic, because he'll have a
Yes.
called a IEP. Yeah, the
IEP.
IEP.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or they see that he's advancing and do the things, and
Mhm.
then you have him. I don't want his growth to be stunted. So I
Yes.
think that we should home.
Yes. Yes.
But
And also you have to think about, learned behavior. That was another
mhm.
concern of
Yes.
mine as well, because she was coming home and there was some behaviors that I was like,
Mhm.
wait, hold on, where'd you get that from? And she was like,
Right.
oh, well, my friend or my associate,
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
said that this was okay. And I'm like, no, that's not okay.
Mm-mm.
We're not doing
Right.
that.
Right,
No.
right. Because you don't know how to be preemptive. You don't, because you don't know what they're doing. You don't know who the
You
children
don't.
are they're associating with. You don't know what's
Mhm.
going on in their house, so you don't know how to be preemptive to say, okay, don't go do this, don't do this. So then you got to
Mhm.
get them home, retrain them,
Exactly.
and start it all over again the next day. It's
Exactly.
But I do commend you for being able to do that and for doing it and just,
Thank you.
saying, not just pulling her out first thing, but let's give the teacher an opportunity to get it
Yes.
right. But
Mm-hmm.
when you can't, when it doesn't happen, you were able to do.
Yes, 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 yes. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to step back for a minute
Okay.
because you mentioned that you started your business before you
Mhm.
actually started the homeschooling, the homeschooling. And I'm going to assume, what you shouldn't assume, so I need to change that word. I'm going to presume that you may, assist others with getting their homeschooling started. I'm presuming that. But let's
Yes.
step back.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's step back for a minute and talk about your business. How did you start the business, and how did you figure out what you were going to do? Because you mentioned that you had an accident. You knew you
Mhm.
weren't going to be able to go back to the classroom, so you
Mhm.
started a business. How did it come about?
So my business came about, like I said, being on bed rest. The Lord said, "Hey, you need to start your own business. You need to do your own thing." And me being disobedient, I will say I was disobedient. I was like, "No, I'm going to get up. Once I get better, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go right back into that classroom setting." So I did. I went back into the classroom setting as a reading specialist. And then
Okay.
some things fell through with that, and it was like, oh, okay, well, I was supposed to be in this space anyway. So therefore, the business, I stepped out on faith and said, this is what I'm going to do. Educational consulting,
Okay.
in which, with me being an educator, I understood the importance of where I had different roles. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, with my business, LadiQuin Enterprise, I wanted to wear different roles. I wanted to have a team where we're not one size or one shoe fits all. So with LadiQuin Enterprise, we offer educational solutions based on our clients' needs to empower, equip, and innovate them. So that's what it's all about. So we offer tutoring services. We offer customized tutoring services. Everything is customized, from your
Mm-hmm.
workshops to your professional development, to our consulting. That is what I wanted the company to represent. And the
Okay.
sky is, there's no limitations on what we can offer and what we can actually do. So I just leveraged my skills within the classroom and said, you know what, this is something that I can do beyond the classroom.
Okay, I love that. That you were able to pivot, right? You were
Mhm.
able, because, and that's the other thing, is that sometimes some of us, we have certain skills. We know that God is calling us to something else. We know we have the ability to do it, but
Mhm.
it's the pivoting, figuring out how to pivot because we're
Yes.
afraid. But
Yes.
I really do admire you for being able to step out on faith and just standing on what you already knew. You already
Mhm.
knew the
Mhm.
education was your thing. I'm gonna stay in this lane,
Yes.
about crook.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes. And I
and
and
you
I
were able
will
to do that.
say, that through my actual journey, like I always had to have those reminders, like, yeah, you could do this, because, like I said, my crutch was, okay, education in the classroom. So ultimately, that is why I went back into the classroom, because
Hmm.
I was like, okay, this is what I know. This is what I know. And ultimately, it got to the point where I said, okay, I can do this for myself because I'm
Hmm.
doing it already. So why can't I do it for myself and be
Hmm.
successful within my journey?
Right. I We've had the privilege because we went back to school. We were non-traditional students, so the individuals that we were surrounded by were younger than us. We both I can't, I won't have, what's the word I'm supposed to use?
What?
Not, it's not pledge.
No, we went through MIP process.
Yes, we went through.
Blue flag, 5 minute signals are non-pledge
I'm sorry.
organization.
We went through the new membership process
There it
because
is.
you don't use the word pledge. So we went through the new membership
There it
process.
is.
Okay.
You became a Sigma. I became a Zeta. So younger people.
Okay.
One of the things that because you saying about your thought process was, I need to get back to the classroom, made me think about this, is that they were getting their degrees, and some of the conversations that I would have with them is basically, you have to think outside the box. Don't
Mhm.
put yourself into, yeah, you got this degree, but you don't have to be beholden to what that traditional job path is, right?
Mhm.
And that's
That's true.
what you had to do, was reframe and think outside the box. I can take what I'm doing in this classroom and use it in other places. That's what
Yes.
that the point of me saying all that is that we were older. Because the point of it is that when you're older, you think differently, and you
Yes.
realize that you don't have to stay in that same thing, that I can
Mhm.
take this skill that I have and I can implement it and use it in different ways. It's not
Yes.
going to have me beholden to what they want. Because like you said, you went back to be a reading specialist, and as they've done in, the schools all over the country, these jobs, they don't have nurses at the schools anymore.
Mhm.
They don't have guidance counselors anymore. They used to have what is it called?
Resource
The
development.
resource, the resource
Mhm.
officer, all the things that they used to have in schools, they don't have them anymore because for whatever reason, the budget or whatever, you
Pricey.
decide to get rid
Mhm.
of it. But you were able to still say, okay, let me go do what I know I can do.
Mhm.
So,
Yes, yes. And I think that for many individuals, especially when you pivot from what you know, everyone always thinks about, you know, financially, what's going to
hmm
happen financially. And
hmm
that's why you go back into that space,
right.
that setting, because you so often hear that from teachers. They say, well, yeah, that's great that we can start our own business, but I still have bills. I still
hmm
have bills. I still have things that I need to take care of. I still have a family. So, like I said, that's a part of a conversation that was had because, yes, at the time there was only one income that was coming in. So it's just having that village, that team that's there to work with you as well. Hmm.
So, you mentioned a team. How important is it to have a network with what you're doing? How important is that?
It's very, very important because, like I said, at the end of the day, with your village, because I call everyone that's a part of what we're trying to do, a
Mm-hmm.
village. With
Mm-hmm.
our village, it's important to have a network, a village, because at the end of the day, they're your support system.
Mm-hmm.
Because without your support system, like what are you able to do? So those long days, those long nights, where as an entrepreneur, a grinding, the hustle,
Mm-hmm.
everything that you have to do, like you can't do that by yourself. There may be times where it's like, okay, you're gonna have to have a sleepover here because mommy has to do this early in the morning. So as a result, mommy and daddy have to do this. So as a result, let's go ahead and say we're gonna have this sleepover, maybe at your cousin's house. Because
Mm-hmm.
my parents are in Florida, but we're in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, building a community, building
Mm-hmm.
a village where you can say, okay, this is what we're going to tap in because, like I said, it's one thing to where you're able to drop your child off at school in the schoolhouse and they're there the majority of the day. When you're an entrepreneur, it's not like that. You don't have that luxury. So there have been opportunities where I've had to say, okay, break down, okay, my daughter is with me. I am homeschooling and having that understanding. They're like, oh, wow. And they want to learn more about it. So, like
Mm-hmm.
having that village that's able to step up and say, hey, we support you 1000%.
That is awesome. I want to pivot. I want to go back real quick. So to the homeschooling. So do let me see. So there are networks of homeschooling. I don't know what they call them,
Cluster.
pods or
Pods, co ops, micro school,
yeah,
there's a whole. Mhm.
right. So with you being and I don't know which look which term you prefer, black or African American, but a person of color. Uh, do you or have you or are you in? Did you seek out other people of color that were homeschooling to be kind of a support and to kind of learn what they were doing so that you can ensure, even because you're an educator, but
Mhm.
homeschooling is different from teaching in the classroom, right? We know that because anything could be a lesson.
Mhm.
So did you seek that out when you started, or did you create one as a part of your
So,
business?
so when I first started, the first year, that was just unlearning. Unschooling. That's what we went through the process. Or,
Okay.
well, for the first year, I take that back. The first year, I was trying to replicate what was going on in a class setting.
Mm,
And I knew that that wasn't a great fit for myself or my daughter.
okay.
Because, like I said, the waking up early, like 7 o'clock, let's get up, 7 o'clock, let's
hmm
get breakfast,
hmm
let's do all these things. It's like, no, we're not doing
hmm
that. So that was the first year. The next year, I went into unlearning to relearning the whole unschooling process.
Okay.
Some call it unschooling, some call it deschooling. But we went through that actual process to say, hey, this is some things that I want to make sure of, making sure that you're equipped in this particular area. So that was like around the second year. Then the third year was more so me reaching out to individuals within the homeschooling space. And that was just a trial to see how it would work with others. And it opened up, like I said, Pandora's box for me to say, you know what? Okay, yes, I love the elements of this space, but there's some things that are missing or lacking. So a group of us moms got together and said, and dads said, hey, this is what we want to do. We built our own co-op.
Okay.
Where we said it's called Conscious Connections, and it's innovative homeschooling co-op where we call it a village. It was dedicated to creating a nurturing and empowering conscious village environment for us by us, and where we have a fruitful community. And it's going to have, or it has innovative teaching methods and mindful practices, because we want to make sure that we take care of the whole child. That's not just the child itself or our young villager, as we like to call them, but it's also the family, because we want to take it back to yesteryears where there was a village. Like, that's what it's all about. So we want to make sure that everyone within that village is equipped. So that's what it's all about. Positive impact on themselves, their community, and so forth in the world.
I love that. That is so it's holistic, right? And it's
Yes.
true, because that is, oh my gosh, we are so missing that community that we had. And not to delve too far into it, but I think that is one of the what's the word I'm looking for? That is one of the things that was the word that's coming to me is murdered, but it's like, we buried that at the end of the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement was great, but that is so, and integration, school integration, it was, all of the things were great, but that is so something that is missing from our community. I can't speak for other communities, but just the fact of, the camaraderie, knowing each other, taking care of each other, caring about what happens to each other. My mother, she passed away 2013, but one of her best friends, she had known her since they were 5 years old. So that's how long they had known each other. But we're still in contact with her. Like, that's the thing, the friends that she was able to have, and that the village they were able to build. We, as her children, even though she's no longer here, we're still able to be in contact with those people, because of that. But these kids these days, they don't have that. They don't have true friends. When you look at the news and you see, like, the young lady that went to Mexico with her friends, and she didn't come back, and that's what we want. We want our children to be able to build that and have that. That's why what you all are doing is so important, for them to have a sense of community and understanding that you can't get anything done with just you by yourself. You're going to have people around you that are like-minded, that are going toward the same goal. And that's the thing that we're missing with our children. And that's something that that was built in school. You have to think about that. Those are the things that they were learning in school, because they had people teaching them that looked like them. And they wanted them to understand that. So that's my soapbox.
No. I love it. I love it. That is what we wanted to evoke with our co-op. Just everything that you express, that is what we wanted to have. And then a safe space, like I said, that safe space. And also going back into, your character, who you are as a person, having those conversations. And like you said, with the conversation about being friends, my daughter automatically knows, like, everyone associate. Everyone, that's how we start off. And then there's levels, there's steps to getting to be my friend, because you can't say you're my friend, and then every time I look around, you're doing something, you're antagonizing me, you're doing something that isn't characteristic of a friend. So she will always tell you, like, she now has one friend. that she
Mm-hmm.
will say, this is my friend, because once again, I've shown her the steps we've shown her the steps as it relates to saying, okay, there's characteristics. You just can't have everyone calling everyone your friend.
Right. Because you have to have their best interest at heart and they have to have your best interest at heart.
Yes.
And that's
Hmm.
that is really good too. And
Hmm.
that's something that we as parents need to teach our children, because you said something that you were teaching your daughter at home, which is of
Hmm.
course another problem. And again, I'm talking about our community because I
Hmm.
can't, everyone does what they do. But
Yes.
in our community, that's something unfortunately that some of us are missing, is that we're not teaching our children at home and
Hmm.
then sending them to, because there's
Hmm.
things they're just not learning anymore. There's
Hmm.
things when we were growing up. I mean, there was some stuff that I learned in school that, how to answer the telephone, how to write a letter,
Hmm.
how to respect the door, say yes, ma'am. No. Now, granted, my parents were teaching me the yes,
Hmm.
ma'am, and all the, no, sir, all the things at home, but we were learning that in school too. They don't do that anymore. But at any rate,
Yes, but it depends. It depends, like you said, it depends on where you're from, because different parts in the South, they're like, okay,
mhm,
yes, ma'am. Like
right.
Georgia, you're going to hear yes, ma'am, no, sir. You
Mhm,
know, the eye contact, yes, ma'am, no, sir. But maybe in Florida, you don't hear yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. You
right.
hear yeah, 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 yes, yeah. And
Right.
it's like, okay, wow. So that was an adjustment for me, even as I left Florida and went to Georgia, the yes ma'am, I was like, okay, no, don't, that makes me feel older. Why would you do
Mhm,
that? And they
mhm,
said, no, it's a form of respect. And I was like,
right.
oh, okay, that works.
Mhm. Right. Look, go get them little children. My teacher said I didn't have to say yes.
Exactly. It's like, wait, I didn't know. Okay, all right, that's how you roll. Okay.
Right.
Well,
But our son, he was, a little knucklehead when he was in school. And I used
mhm.
to tell him, he would talk about his friends, and I would tell him, if they were your friend, they wouldn't let you act like that. They would
That's
tell
right.
you, hey, calm down. We got to do X, Y,
Hmm.
and Z. So if your friend is not telling you that, that's not
Hmm.
your friend. And you
Mm-mm.
may want to, find some other people to be around that are going to
Hmm.
tell you that's not what we do. Because
Yes,
you should, you and your friends should reflect each other. If my friend
exactly.
is doing this, a good thing, then I need to be doing this good thing. We both
Exactly.
can't be acting a fool. Somebody got to
Hmm.
say, hey, don't do that. We got to, let's reel
Hmm.
that in.
And they will always remind you, like I said, as far as, you know, yes, I'm at the schoolhouse. Yes, I may act this way at the schoolhouse, but you have to remember, I have to go home. So
Right.
if it's not
Right.
transferable, then
Right.
it's like, oh, wait, that friend is going to remind you,
Hmm.
hey, you're not representing your family. That's not
Right.
what your family
Oh
would
my
do.
gosh.
So
Right.
no one thinks about that or continues that conversation. It's just like, okay, yeah, choose your friends. No, the saying is choose your friends wisely.
Hmm. Hmm. That is, and that all of that needs to be put back into education. That needs to be part of the thing, because we're required to send our children to school when they turn 5. Is
Hmm.
you gotta send them to school. Well, there's some things that we should be expecting since they're with you all day. That's good. We want you to teach them to read, write, and all the things, and do
Hmm.
math. But there's some other things that needs to go back into that too, because they are with those people for most of the day. And some of the stuff
Yes.
they're learning doesn't have anything to do with education, but that's
Mm-mm.
another story for another
Mhm.
time. Oh, one of the
Mhm.
things that you enjoy is writing, and I think you've written a book. Can you tell us about your book?
So, yes, to teach or not to teach beyond the classroom, it's volume 3. It is a
Okay.
collaboration book of educators who share their journeys of leveraging classroom skills and techniques to advance within and beyond the educational industry. So that's the book. Mhm.
Okay. And you said it's a collaboration, so there's several authors of the book.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And it's
yes.
volume 3.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
So,
So I really like through this actual process, it truly has been a pleasure because you get insight from different perspectives.
mhm.
Individuals that are within the classroom, just serving in different capacity, different roles, and then individuals like myself that have left the classroom and leverage the skills beyond the classroom. So that's how you get the best of both worlds.
Okay, okay. So before we end, I'm gonna want you to give us information about how we can get not only the latest volume, but the others as well. But before I let you go, I have one last question for you. If you had one chance to speak to parents that are considering homeschooling or an alternative education for their children, what would you say to them?
I would say trusting yourself. And the reason why would say, you want to trust in yourself, because if you see certain pain points or challenges, if you've enrolled your child into a school and you're like, no, I'm seeing these different things, it's just a snapshot of possibly what is going to happen in the future. So if you see it,
Mm,
you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to withdraw my child and I'm going to be that individual that's going to homeschool. You have to remember that it's not just you by yourself.
mhm.
It's a community that you can actually build as well. So everything that you want your child to be equipped with, you can lay that foundation. So I would say, like I said, trust yourself, because before they enter into a school setting, you are the primary teacher. It starts
Mhm.
off in the womb. So you are the primary teacher. So as a result, trust yourself, and know that you are equipped with everything that you need.
That is really good. You said something just now, and it made me think back to my to the boy, the son, about that whatever is happening with them in school now, that it's going to that's it's a preview of what's going to
Mhm.
happen. Like literally, as even as I'm talking to you, I'm looking my mind's eye. I'm seeing my son and my two daughters, and oh my God, you just said something because I can see that. Like for
Mhm.
all three of them, I can see the things that were
Mhm.
happening in elementary school. It did. It literally followed them all the way through. That is crazy. You
Mhm.
just said something right there.
It is.
Oh
Mhm.
my gosh!
Yes,
Wow.
it is. I mean, and just like I said, for me, I taught middle school.
Hmm.
So for middle school, the
Bless your heart.
scholars, our mindset, it was automatically, let's change your mindset, because I've taught at two different schools, in Florida, one in Florida and then one in Georgia. But just the mindset, shifting the
Hmm.
mindset, because in Georgia, I taught some students that, they were already defeated. They were
Mm, bless your heart.
told that, you're
Mhm.
not going to go places. This is
Mhm.
it for you. Stop while you're ahead. And it's like, wow, are you really, this is your story? I said, no, you are responsible. You have the responsibility of setting your future, your story, telling your story. So as a
Mhm.
result, let's change this narrative, because this narrative is not you. And so within the first year of me being in Georgia, it wasn't even a full year. It was half of a year, to be honest. They scored the highest for the district, my students,
Oh
and
wow.
they were the lowest. They were the lowest. And as a result, everyone asked, what did you do? I said, I spoke life into them. I changed that narrative for them. That's the only thing I did. I said, there's nothing special. They said, well, I remember from the first day that I entered into the classroom, the students, one student came up to me and she said, guess what? We've had 7 different teachers. We had 7 different teachers. She said, how long are you going to stay?
Oh,
And I
wow.
said, oh, okay, you had 7. Well, I said, unfortunately, the 7 weren't me. I said, now I can have 7 personalities if you need me to. But I
Right.
said, unfortunately, I wasn't there. I said, but I'm here for the long haul. I'm here for the long run. So whatever you need, I'm here. And she was like, okay, I didn't expect that.
Mhm.
And I took them under my wing. I said, it was challenging. It was challenging. So I had to set expectations, because the expectations were already broken. So my expectation was, okay, you need to have your assignments. I need to have your parent contact information, so that when I reach out to them and tell them the great things that you're doing, I have their contact information. So I had to start from scratch. And like I
Mhm.
said, it was challenging, but at the end of the day, I said, if I had to do everything over, as far as my story, my narrative, I would do the same thing. I said, because it made me the person that I am today. I needed the certain tools in order to
Mhm.
get to where I am right now. So, yeah. Mhm.
But you are a testament and a mark of a phenomenal educator, right? I think there are so many, and it doesn't matter, the ethnicity, the race, whatever, gender. That's just the mark of a wonderful educator, to be that way, because you have to care about um, those students in a different way. And I
Mhm.
think today, in today's society and the world that we live in, especially in the United States, there are so many. I don't know what everybody's reasoning is to getting into education, but that's
Mhm.
missing. Is that they
Yes, it
get so
is.
caught up into the testing and they said I got to do this and I can't do
Mhm.
that. But these are people. They may
Yes.
be, these are little people who are going to
Mhm.
grow up and go out into the world. And
Mhm.
somebody, when you're with them all day long like that, you have to care about them. Look at what you did. You were
Mhm.
able to turn them around because you cared. It
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily because you were teaching them and they were getting the information, but the thing that helped them get the information is that you cared. You
Mhm.
cared whether or not they understood it and whether or not they got it. And that's
Yes.
what made the difference. And that's
Yes.
what we need in our school system and out of our school system today. And
Mhm.
however you're interacting with children and teaching them, individuals, that's what we need is people who care about them. If they know that you care, it's going to change their whole
Mhm.
outlook on life
It
just to know
will.
that someone cares about them. And that's what changed. What
It
you
will.
said.
Yes, it will.
Basically what you were saying was, are you going to care about us enough to stay?
Yes, and that's what it was because like I said, I expressed that I'm here, and I said I'm here for an extended amount of time, and it started off, like I said, with building that community with the parents, making sure that there was a established trust, and then on top of that, having them understand that I mean what I say. And so
Right.
I had to stay after school with them. And I told them, instead of turning detention into something negative, I just said, hey, you want to spend extra time with me? It's okay.
Hmm.
So I would
Hmm.
have days where I would assign them after school time with myself, to where if they didn't have their work, they didn't complete their work, you get 3 strikes. I give you 3 strikes. I don't just say the first strike, you got to stay with me. No, I give you 3 strikes. After that third strike, that means you want some extended time with me. So I would have extended time, and then based on building relationships with their parents, they say, well, I don't have the transportation to have them stay at the school. I was like, we'll work it out. I just need your consent that it's okay for me to work with your son or daughter. And they was
Hmm.
like, yeah. So just thinking outside of the box, and
Hmm.
just changing the narrative, the connotation of detention into something that's positive, where it's extended time. So that's just a mind shift. That's what it's all about as well.
Hmm.
And
So,
having them understand that you're not there for, because you often hear students say this, oh, my teacher's here for a paycheck. My teacher
hmm.
said I got mine, you don't got yours. And it's like, okay, we're
Hmm.
not going to go into all that. I said, no,
Right.
there's a way that you can speak life into someone without demeaning them
Right.
ultimately.
Exactly. Exactly. Being there not only for the students but for the parents to assure the parents that you care and you're not just there for a
Hmm.
paycheck. That you care
Hmm.
about the well-being of their child. That is
Hmm.
totally awesome. So before we go, I want you to um, let everyone know where they can follow you, contact you if needed, because you have a wealth of information that you can share with people. Not only just if someone wants to homeschool, but how they can better help their child in the classroom, how they can
Hmm.
help that situation, and also where individuals can get or where we can get your book.
Okay, perfect. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, LadiQuin Enterprise, and it's Lady with an I, not a Y. So it's at the bottom underneath my name. So LadiQuin Enterprise. As far as social media, then my website is www.ladyquinenterprise.com. You can also retrieve a copy of To Teach or Not to Teach, Volume Beyond the Classroom, Volume 3, on my website as well. So you can get that information. So, yes, that's how you get in contact with me.
Totally awesome. Totally awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much for having a conversation with us today. It was like very eye-opening and just totally awesome. I'm gonna have to share that tidbit though that you gave, that whatever's going on when your child starts school, that's what that's honey.
Mhm. Yes,
And,
yes, yes.
I'm not gonna hold you. I'm gonna let you go. But just you saying that, I kind of feel I, I'm not gonna feel bad, but I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had known, maybe we could have done something. I don't know, but it is what it
But
is.
now, but now watch this. You have your grandchildren.
Yes,
So now your grandchildren, you can take this information and utilize it with your grandchildren.
Yes, and be preemptive.
Yes, that's
Yes.
correct. That's
Thank
correct.
you. Oh my gosh. See, this was great. This is why I like these interviews because the tidbits and the gems. Thank you so,
You're
so
so
much. We are going
welcome.
to follow you and keep in contact with you again. Thank you so very much for being on the show today. We greatly appreciate it. Everyone, be sure that you are following LaQuinda at Lady Quinn Enterprise and be sure to get her book. So thank you again for being on the show. We greatly appreciate you being here today.
Thank,
Okay.
thank you. It truly has been a pleasure.
So we want to thank LaQuinda Johnson for being on the podcast today. It was an awesome conversation. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And be sure to follow LaQuinda on all of her socials, visit her website, and purchase that book. And if you leave any comments, be sure to be kind because it's free. It does not cost anything to be kind. But before we get out of here, we got to pay some bills. Allow Say How You Feel to take your logo to new heights. Whether you need t-shirts, mugs, tumblers, or pens, we can assist you with your custom needs. Contact us at 615-839-0788 or sayhowyoufeel@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Bye, y'all. Lord.